Hello, everyone, and welcome to LFC Transfer Room. Today, we are going to be looking at pretty much all our tips for the season. What we've done is we created a survey. Everyone's filled in the survey. I've got all the results in front of me, and I'm today joined by Jay, Matty, Seb, and Louie, and they're going to try and justify some of the crazy things that they've put in this poll. Matty, we'll start with you. How's the voice coming back? Slowly after your stag?
Yeah, slowly but surely. I'm getting there. Slowly but surely.
And Louie, bit of confusion as to who's hosting today. So you're happy to be not in the driver's seat and me to be doing this one?
Yeah, second night in a row. Yeah, sorry, I thought I'd frozen there. Yeah, second night in a row, and it's just all about the countdown to the Fulham game for me now. And as Matty says, slowly but surely, but for different reasons.
And Tino, I think this is the first one me and you've done where it's the second one I've done where I've been in charge, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Are you ready for the new season? Are you primed?
I wouldn't say ready.
Have you got your FPL team sorted?
Not yet. That's one thing. It's on my list of things to sort. So I'll probably be doing that later tonight. That's the one thing I need. That's the last thing I need to do. So. Yeah,
last piece of the jigsaw before the season starts.
Anybody wants to give me any help, any tips, please do.
Perisic that hasn't played all pre-season. Anyway, right, this isn't an FPL stream. We could save that. Jay, you chose Newcastle to win the league, which was an accident, I believe. But do you want to explain why? Can you not read?
I just think Chris Wood's going to tear it up next season. I mean, he's going to be my golden boot winner. So yeah, that's why I make big Chris Wood up front. Going to do it for the boys.
I'll be honest, one of our team picked Leicester to finish in the top four and picked Leicester to get relegated. You know, sometimes people haven't pressed the right button. I think it was Liverpool and, well, I think they might think Leicester was going to get relegated. But we're going to kick off. We're not going to start with champions. We're going to start with the top four because 3 of the top 4 was absolutely locked in by pretty much everyone, which is Liverpool, Man City, and Spurs.
Oh.
Now, Tino, why are you so confident, that Spurs are going to make it into the top 4? Because I'm assuming you put Spurs down because more people put Spurs, the same amount of people put Spurs as Man City.
I did not. I put Arsenal.
Oof.
Yeah. If I click the right button, that is. Yeah. I prefer Arsenal if I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah, you said Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester, Man City. So why are these crazy people choosing Spurs?
Spurs recruitment's been all right. Antonio Conte is a phenomenal manager. He's a world-class manager. He's one of the best in the world. Him being at Spurs was a phenomenal appointment. I'm surprised someone like United didn't try to snap him up. So he's a very good appointment, and the recruitment's been quite good. As much as 60-odd million for Richarlison is a lot of money to pay. Don't get me wrong, but I do think he's a half-decent player, and I think bringing in someone to back up Heung-min Son and Harry Kane when they're not there was a smart move because I don't think the players they've got at the club at present are good enough. For me, as soon as Harry Kane or Heung-min Son are out of that side, if they get injured, that's Spurs not getting top 4. So bringing someone in, bringing a young fullback from Forest who's done quite well, someone that can embed into the team, someone for the long term, is a very smart move as well. But I prefer
a lot of new players to embed, isn't it?
It is. The way Arsenal have recruited, for me, Arsenal have recruited quite well. I know you're laughing.
No, there's a comment, mate. I'm laughing.
Hear me out for a second. Arsenal, I quite like the recruitment. They've signed Gabriel Jesus. Leicester was an accident, I swear. Leicester was an accident. Gabriel Jesus, I think, is a phenomenal signing. He's done bits in a very mismatched position for Manchester City. On the left, on the right, up top, he's been sort of thrown about wherever he can do. So I think he's a very, very good signing. He's a quality player. I think it's a huge year for Bukayo Saka. He got 11 goals and 7 assists last season. And I genuinely just love Bukayo Saka as a player. I think he's a superb young talent.
Well, we'll come on to young talent.
I really think this is the season that Arsenal take it to the next step.
Well, we'll come on to young talent soon, Tino, but we're going to stick with the top 4 because Louie doesn't think Arsenal are going to make the top 4. He went for Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, and Spurs. So what is it about Arsenal that you think are lacking at this moment in time, Louie? Or do you just think it's Arsenal?
Mute.
You're on mute.
Whoops. Maybe not that Arsenal are lacking necessarily. I think for me, for a lot of the reasons Seb said as well, but Antonio Conte is just a very good manager, especially with, not all of his players being in a team. Like he can work with what he's got very well. And the way that they ended last season is going to push them on for better things. And, I think it would be a very disappointing season if they missed out on top 4 again. For me, it was between Chelsea and Arsenal. For me, I was more confident with Spurs. It was between Chelsea and Arsenal for that 4th spot. And I just think, yes, maybe Chelsea aren't going to do as well, but are they going to fall off that massively? I just can't see it. I think with a summer behind them, a pre-season behind them, they'll be able to bounce back a little bit. They've gotten rid of some deadwood. They've gotten rid of some key players as well. But this is a bit of a fresh start for them. And I think Tuchel at the end of the day is still a very good tactical manager. And with, all of the Abramovich stuff seemingly out of the way now, they can really get back onto the pitch and just focus on the football kind of thing. So for me, people are maybe overrating how much of a downfall they may have this season. So I think that they're still pretty confident to get top 4.
Okay, well, let's talk to someone that's planning the downfall. Matty, you've gone for Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal, and Man City. Chelsea out the top 4.
Yeah.
I've planned this, isn't it?
I think Thomas Tuchel could be one of the first managers to be sacked this year, to be honest, because I just think Chelsea are notorious for sacking managers. That owner's probably going to come in and want who he wants, regardless of if Tuchel's won the Champions League. And let's be serious, Chelsea, although Lukaku was crap for them, they've lost him. They're meant to be losing Werner going back to Leipzig. They've lost Rudiger. They've lost Christiansen. They're meant to be losing Aspilicueta. Mendy wasn't unbelievable towards the back end of last season either, like when he started. Now, yeah, they brought Sterling and Koulibaly in, but they've still lost 2 centre-backs and potentially the right-back, and they've only brought a centre-back in. Sterling's not going to be able to do it all on his own. I think he's a fantastic signing. I really do. I think it's a fantastic signing from Chelsea, but he's not going to be able to do it all on his own. And that's about it for Chelsea, to be honest. I mean, if you ask me this prediction when the window's closed and they do go and get Frankie de Jong and all these rumours they're linked to, then I probably would say, yeah, they will get top 4. But what's on right now, Chelsea are weaker now than they was last year. They brought Sterling in, but that's about it. I mean, Koulibaly's he's a quick fix, but he is only 30. He's 31. Do you know what I mean? They've lost Rudiger, who I rated very highly, to be honest with you, very, very highly. But I think that Chelsea will struggle if they don't improve with more signings. They are going to struggle because if they lose Werner as well, they haven't even got a recognised striker then.
I guess, Jay, it can be difficult, can't it? Because when mass changes happen, there's no stability there to build from. So that seems why you've gone for Liverpool, Man City, and then you've gone for the 2 biggest rebuilds in Chelsea and Tottenham to be the top 4. Obviously, Newcastle to win the title.
Well, yeah. And the rest of them are just Europa. It's all about Newcastle and Almiron. He's going to come back after Jack Grealish, give him shit. So that's why Newcastle are going to win it. Now, listen, the only reason I put Spurs in there was Conte. Conte's not at Spurs. I would never entertain them being in the top 4, to be honest. I'd probably have went for Arsenal over them. I think Arsenal have done really good business, but I don't think Chelsea are as weak as people think. I agree with Liv. Yet they've lost Rudiger, who I rate massively, like Matty did. I thought he was one of the best centre-halves in the league last season. But they have brought in Koulibaly, and yeah, he might be a quick fix, but that's for this season. So they brought in a quality player to replace a quality player. Christensen, they're not going to miss. He didn't play that much. Marcos Alonso's rubbish. And there's talk of them getting Cucurella, who I think is a brilliant player. And they brought in Sterling, got rid of Lukaku, who had no impact whatsoever anyway. The thing to remember is Chelsea were in a title race still to a certain point last season until some of this Abramovich stuff happened, and then they fell off towards the end during all that. But if that never happened, I think they'd have finished in the top 4 a lot more comfortably than they did. So that's the reason I've gone for them too. I think Liverpool City, it's nailed on. Conte factor at Tottenham, and they've done good business as well. And I don't think Chelsea are anywhere near as weak as what some people think they are.
Where are you getting the goals from, though? Because I know Sterling's coming, but he's not going to play as a striker for them, is he? So that's all I'm thinking. Like, I know Lukaku wasn't that good, but when you're mixing in Lukaku and Werner and Havertz, they're all contributing. Where Sterling's, I feel like they're relying a lot on Sterling, to be honest.
They might keep Rozier though.
Yeah, true.
I know, don't get me wrong, it's not like, we bounced any last season, but he's going to get more chances at Chelsea than he did at Saints. So they might be relying on him. Plus, it's like you said, the window isn't finished, so maybe they do bring in a striker.
If they get Frankie de Jong in, I think Chelsea will get top 4 ahead of Arsenal. But I think Spurs are nailed on me, just because Conte's a serial winner. Do you know what I mean? When he went to Inter and he was bringing in Ashley Young and stuff like that, people were laughing at him, saying what's he going to do? And then he went and won the league with Ashley Young and stuff. So I think I'm not saying Spurs will win the league, no chance, but they've bought well. That Jed Spencer's a proper talent, and Basuma to get in for what's the 26.28 million. That's a joke. We were going to buy him 2 years ago for 50 mil.
Okay, we're going to move on to some of the individual predictions now, because we've been seeing in the chat. There's a couple of things in the chat saying, Frank Lampard's going to go first, Thomas Tuchel's going to go first. And in the sack race, so the first Premier League manager to go, and we'll do first Premier League manager to go, then we'll do player of the years. But the first Premier League manager to go, number 1 vote for us was Brendan Rodgers. Now, who went with Brendan Rodgers?
Me.
Good shout,
Not made, only club in the top 5 divisions not to make a major signing. Is that the main reason you think they're going to get rid of him?
I think Brendan Rodgers is ran his course at Leicester, quite similar to like he did at Liverpool. I think he's took them as far as he can take them. Like that squad they've got, they probably shouldn't be where he was last season. Do you know what I mean? They always drop off every time he gets them in Europe. Same with Liverpool, he was terrible. I think the issue with Vardy and stuff like that at the minute, I think that plays a bigger picture because that can ruin squad morale if they all think that Vardy's misses is going behind the backs and stuff. And they've lost Kasper Schmeichel, which is massive. I think Rodgers forced Gerrard out a year too early, I think, and it's shown. And then Rodgers then got sacked. He's forced his club captain out and let him leave. And it's going to show, I reckon. He'll probably be gone within a few months. If they start bad, they'll be gone. And the Skins as well, so they haven't bought anyone. They aren't in debt.
Yeah. Louie, you also went for Brendan, didn't you? So
Yeah.
Same reasons as Matty, or do you think a few signings could change Leicester's fortune?
Potentially. I'm not really sure who they're looking at, what they go for, but a lot of it is historical. Like, this is a massive season. The first few games are massive for Brendan Rodgers. Twice in a row, they were almost at points secure in European football and then bottled it towards the end. And that you can only do that so many times. And then last season was pretty much a complete dud from start to finish anyway. Really low achievers and just didn't really like they were progressing anywhere. So it's just an important time, isn't it? It's similar to, where could Eddie Howe take Bournemouth, or how long do you stick with Sean Dyche at Burnley? Brendan Rodgers needs to deliver something this season, and he needs to get off to a good start. For me, if they're, after 5 games, less than 9 points, less than 7 points, then you start automatically questioning him straight away. And I think fans will start to turn on him quite quickly. There's lots of other good shouts, and I'm sure we'll get into those. I think a lot of people might have put Lampard or might have put Tuchel from Chelsea as well. I just think they get a little bit more time. They could easily go this year, but I just think they get a bit more time. Brendan Rodgers, the pressure's on quickly because of how the last 3 seasons have gone.
The chat have gone all in. Lampard. And Jay, we know you put Lampard. But Tino, you went with Jesse Marsch. Why do you think Jesse's going first?
I think he was very fortunate to stay up. I didn't see anything from Leeds when he came in. That was a dramatic shift, and they transitioned into this. I don't expect him to be amazing, but I didn't see anything. I think the only real reason they didn't go down was because Burnley are absolutely trash. I don't think the players they've signed, I'm not overly convinced. They've lost one of them. If I'm being brutally honest,
some of them are really good.
Don't get me wrong. The dude from the Sinistera,
from Feyenoord,
I rate him really highly. I just to lose Calvin Phillips, and then to have Bamford injured for basically the entirety of last season, I think that's a lot of pressure to put on him, because I don't see where they're getting the goals from. If I'm being brutally honest, I don't see where they're getting the goals from.
They've brought in a few attack midfielders, and they got strikers and stuff coming back from loan. They fixed Calvin Phillips going. I'm not saying he's the caliber of him, but with Mark Rower from Bayern Munich, he's a good signing. And I think you're being quite hard on Jesse Marsch, saying that you see nothing with them when he joined on February 28th, and he hasn't been able to. These players have been in the Bielsa system, and we've interviewed quite a few Leeds people on this channel who've said no player in that Leeds system can play anywhere else because he was so intense. So the fact he kept them up, not playing Bielsa style football, I think it's a credit to him. This is his first window as a Leeds manager, so he still hasn't got his team. He had to keep a Leeds team up that was stuck in a system of Bielsa's, change it to his system, and then keep them up. And I think he's bought really well. Like, looking here, he's got that Brendan Aronson from Salzburg. He's a good player. Liverpool linked with him. They got Tyler Adams as well as a defensive midfielder. He's phenomenal. And then they also brought in that Mark Rower. So I think they're going to play a double pivot. And then they've got attacking midfielders like Brendan Aronson coming in, and that Lewis Sinestro who's going to get them the goals. So I think Leeds are a surprise package,
But that's a big switch. That's a big switch. You mentioned about the transition to make them stylistically play the way he wants to play. That's a huge thing to try and shove on that Leeds squad, given how tactically bizarre that Bielsa's formation and lineups and how he likes to play. I think it's a lot of pressure to put on that Leeds squad, and if after the first 10 games they've won maybe 1 or 2, I think they're going to struggle.
I think the perk is they did their business early, and it gives him the best chance to have a positive input. But a bad run of results can turn into a bad pressure situation where he could theoretically be the first one gone, because for some reason an American talking about football just feels a bit weird at times. But Jay, you've gone with the obvious. You've gone with Frank to go first. I'm hoping they keep him, and I'm hoping he takes him down. Why do you think Frank's going to be the first one to go?
Just haven't improved the squad at all. They got beat by Minnesota 4-0 in pre-season with the strongest 11 out. Calvert-Lewin's too busy going on catwalks to stay fit, so keeps having injuries. He's injured again now. The replacement for that's Wonder, who's getting a bus pass anytime this year. So how we get that? Lampard couldn't get Chelsea fourth with 200 million. He's had nothing to spend at Everton with a crap club. How is he keeping them up? How's he doing it? Unless the fans start turning up with Alsatians outside the grounds and stuff again every week, they've got no chance. But I've got to be honest, Louie and Matty saying Leicester.
they all absolutely love Lampard. Like, I don't think the fans would let him get sacked. Like, they love him.
Yeah, but that's only because he's kept them up and they were convinced they were going down, lad. That's going to die. That'll die within 3 home games. Everything is so hostile, lad. Honestly, it's the most hostile team at home. I think half the reason they fail is because their own fans are on the back from the 10th minute if they haven't had a shot on goal. I think these two got
a problem, wasn't it? Before COVID hit, West Ham fans were so toxic to their own players, and they fixed it in COVID.
And honestly, mate, that has such a big burden. Every time you get the ball, your own fans are booing you. You probably don't want the ball. Even if you're the type of player who likes having the ball, you probably think, you know what, swear, I can't be asked with the aggro. But I think the lads have made a good one with Rodgers because, they've signed no one. He was taking steps forward, now they haven't. They're going backwards, if anything, and the likelihood is Fofana and Maddison are going to go. Which, if they do, how's he realistically replacing them players? In a week,
the team's pretty
in 3 or 4 days they play. So I think the lads have got a bosh out with Rodgers. It's not one I thought of, but I wouldn't be surprised with Lampard either. He's going to try and play dynamic football with a crap team. So good luck. It'll be like De Boer again.
I do think though, getting Dwight McNeil and Spacer at Charleston, basically that's what they've replaced him with, isn't it?
He's a good player. I do like Dwight McNeil.
Because do you not think James Richarlison's just spends too much time on the floor rolling around being a dickhead to fans?
It's not right. Let's ignore Richarlison because I just think he's a pantomime horse. But Dwight McNeil played 38 games and got 1 assist.
But he had more crosses.
He played all 38 games.
But he had more crosses into the box than Mo Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold last year, which is a mad.
So we got bombs on.
No, but I mean, he's still players. Although Everton are much better than Burnley. If Calvert-Lewin's fit, he's better on the end of them balls than what Burnley had.
He's great in the air, Calvert-Lewin.
And
but you've got
I was today and was so surprised that he had more crosses than Trent. I was proper shocked. Proper shocked.
Yeah, but most people have more crosses than Trent, actually, when you start to look into it. Reece James does more crosses than Trent per game.
Trent's second in the league.
Reece James does 4.65 per game across his career compared to Trent's, which is 4.55. It's on FB Ref. Crosses per game for the career, Reece James outperforms Trent. But
I was going off last season, me like crosses in the Premier League stats and that.
But Iago Aspas could do a cross. Didn't mean it went to anyone. 1 assist shows you it's not very good crossing.
Being harsh on Dwight McNeil there, to be fair. I think he's a very
good. I think
Aspas
got more assists than 1 in the season.
Like last year, all our fan base were going mad when we were linked to him, and now he's went to Everton. He's shit.
I do like McNeil. He had a bad season last season, but I think he is a decent player.
All right, let's move on to something more positive, because instead of Dwight McNeil bashing from me and you guys defending him, let's talk about
Davis,
let's talk about young player of the season. Who we think is going to come through as young player of the season? Now, interestingly, number 1 on our vote was not a Liverpool player. Number 1 on the vote was Saka, which Tino, you were talking about earlier. You think he's going to have a really big season. And he was actually quite clear of all the other players that were voted for. Why do you think Saka's going to be sort of such a instrumental player and get young player of the season?
Because his stats last season were solid. 11 goals, 7 assists in the league. Even if he does slightly better than last season, Arsenal are in a better position attacking wise to allow him to develop and allow him to really influence the game when they've got because last season their attack was atrocious. Let's be realistic. Like, you've got 2 youngsters and Lacazette, who's gone back to a Farmers League. Now you've got a top quality striker in Gabriel Jesus. Maybe they need 1 more, potentially, but you've got someone who's going to create space for him, someone who's going to draw defenders out, someone who's versatile as well to allow him to flourish on the flank. I really, really do like Bukayo Saka. I really rate him highly. I'd love to see him in a Liverpool shirt. I think we've linked to him plenty of times in the past. But yeah, I really do rate him highly.
I mean, Gabriel Jesus did only score 8 goals in 28 games in the Premier League last season.
But 13 assists. Though.
I do rate 9. It wasn't a Prem.
13 in all competitions.
Yeah, he's a good player though. He's only 25, and he is good.
I like the recruitment. I like what they've done so far. I still think there's bits they need to do. I still think they need a DM. Like, even with the players they brought in previously, that position for the last 10, 15 years hasn't been solved. They've sort of getting there with the centre back partnerships, that they're on the way. And I think signing Zinchenko was a clever move as well. Someone versatile, someone who's got a lot of experience in the Premier League, and who's come from.
Definitely force him for the midfield because they've got Tino at left back.
Maybe
they're putting Tino in midfield or centre back, left centre back.
Yeah,
where he plays for Scotland.
That's the only mad thing I thought about getting Zinchenko, because they've got Tino, who's a belter.
Now, interestingly, the other three of you all went for different Young Player of the Years as well. With Matty, you went for Harvey Elliott. Louie, you went for Carvalho. And Jay, you went for Phil Foden, which I think is a cheat, because how is he still classified?
I've actually changed my mind, to be fair. I have changed my mind, but when you come to me, I'll tell you who now.
So I'm going to start with Louie Carvalho. We've only seen glimmers of him, but obviously he had an absolute smash season in the Championship. What makes you think he's going to carry on that level and be that level up again this year?
I was struggling. I forgot who I'd picked, and I was struggling for this category for ages, because it could just so easily go to like Phil Foden again if he's still in that category. But no, I think we're all rightly excited about what Carvalho's got to offer, and I feel like he's going to be such a versatile part of our squad. If he avoids injuries and he's in and around the starting 11 throughout the season, which based on his form and how highly he's rated, that I think he definitely can do. And in this team, as an attacking player, I don't think it would be too difficult for him to rack up some pretty decent numbers with the likes of Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz around him, supporting him. So that's ultimately what will get you recognised in that category. And for him, there's no better group of players to have around to bring out the best of him, help him shine, and announce himself on the world stage, which is what I'm really hoping that he can do.
No, for me, Matty, I think the position in the starting lineup, the sort of the regular 11, if you wish, is between Carvalho and Elliott, because I think they play similar types of positions. And I think Elliott's got one up, hasn't he, in terms of getting that assist for Núñez's third goal in the Community Shield. He's been on it in pre-season, but what is it that makes you think he's gonna carry it through to the full year?
Because if Harvey Elliott wouldn't have got injured last year, he probably would have won Young Player of the Year. Because before his injury, he was Liverpool's best player by a mile. He bullied Chelsea in that home game. I think he's a generational talent. I really do believe that. I'm excited. I was torn between Carvalho and Elliott, because what I've seen in Carvalho in pre-season, he's the most Coutinho regen I've ever seen. He's got the same ankles and everything. It's just Coutinho again. He's going to be fantastic. But with Harvey Elliott, I think he'll probably get a bit more. They'll probably both come on off the bench. They probably won't be starting much, but I think Harvey Elliott will get the nod just before Carvalho, purely because he's been around the team longer, he knows the system more, etc., etc. But I think these two are the future of Liverpool's attacking options, midfield options, whatever you will. But I think with Carvalho, you might see him deployed on the left a bit more, like with Diaz maybe coming off at, say, 50, 60 minutes than you would in midfield, because he can do that very well and he's got a bit of pace about him. Where I think Klopp prefers Elliott in midfield, and where Elliott plays in midfield, I do believe that's the position that's the weakest in the club, the right centre mid. Because if Thiago and Fabinho are fit, Elliott slots in well, and he was building a good relationship with Trent and with Salah prior to that injury. So if he can, I'm purely basing it on what I've seen of Premier League football, because as good as Carvalho has been in pre-season, we don't know what he's going to be like in the Premier League yet. I don't think he'll be bad. I think he's going to be world class, but it might take him a little bit to adjust. Whereas Harvey Elliott had that Premier League experience, and he literally was arguably our best player up until his injury last season. He was fantastic. Everyone was speaking about him. Everyone, like when I'm sure, I don't know if Louis up that bit in a book, but I've seen this one Pep's book where apparently like Mo Salah and that was fuming, and he got injured. Like they value him that highly in the squad, and he's that important. So I think a full season of Harvey Elliott, I rate Harvey Elliott very, very highly. I think he's like the Phil Foden to us. Not saying he's as good as Phil Foden, by the way, but I think what Phil Foden is to City, I think Harvey Elliott is to Liverpool. He's like that little diamond, like who's going to be world class.
Now, Jay, you say you've changed your mind and you've heard 3 really good examples of players that should be Young Player of the Year. So now you've been moulded, you've been guided. Who is your Young Player of the Year if it's no longer
none of them 3? I think Carvalho. No, none of them 3 players. They're all both shouts, though, by the way. I love Saka. The only reason I wouldn't pick Carvalho or Elliott is because I don't know how many games they're going to get, whether they'll play enough football to definitely be able to get it. So I'm going to go for Smith-Rowe from Arsenal, because he will play every week. He started having goals to his game the end of last season as well. I think he's a brilliant player. So for me, Foden's a cheat, like you said, it is. It's a given. He's going to be around that conversation. So I'm going to go for Smith-Rowe at Arsenal.
It's bonkers, isn't it? That Foden's always around that conversation. Trent's around about the same age, yet never in the conversation because everyone treats him as a senior.
Yeah. Foden
Trent
should be treated as a senior.
Who won it last year?
Foden.
2 years
He
in a
won
row.
last 2, hasn't he?
Probably.
Last 2 or 3 years he's won it.
There's a comment there. Haaland's only 22. Nunes is 21. So people like
That's
that.
21.
Sure he is, yeah, 21, 22.
Yeah.
No, he's that young.
Yeah, he's
Smith-Rowe still anyway.
Okay,
He's-
so
23, actually, sorry. Oh, just turned 23.
we're starting to talk about new signings, and one of the other big categories that we had was signing of the season. So who is going to be the best signing of the season? And once again, it wasn't a Liverpool player that came out on top. Number 1 player in the votes from us was Gabriel Jesus.
What was this one for?
Signing of the season. Now, is anyone going to own up, or am I going to have to dig into the surveys to see if anyone said it?
Matty,
said Gabriel Jesus.
did you put Carvalho?
I put Carvalho as my sign of the season, yeah.
But doesn't that go against your argument for Young Player of the Season?
No, but Elliott's not, I think Carvalho and Elliott, that's what I mean. I was so torn on Young Player of the season. I think Elliott might pivot, but I'm bitter and twisted. If we get onto flop of the season, I'm going to get so much hate in the comments. But I'm bitter and twisted towards Liverpool. So I think I was going to put Darwin Núñez, but I think Fabio Carvalho is a sign of the season on the basis that everyone's sleeping on him. Nobody knows what he's going to do, and I think he's going to come in and set the world alight.
Now, Louie, you put Gabriel Jesus as signing of the season, didn't you? And he started pre-season like a freight train, but maybe he's taken that inner Arsenalness to his heart, and he's going to be great in pre-season and terrible when it starts.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? You can never be 100% sure. I mean, I think it depends on how quickly Alvarez embeds himself into the team, but I think Jesus could be a massive loss if on the rare occasion Man City were ever struggling for a goal or struggling with their system. They knew that they could always take off whoever the false 9 was or whoever the left winger was and shove on Jesus, and more often than not he'd get a goal, or if someone was injured he'd come into the next lineup and more often than not he'd get a goal. To unleash him into a full starting 11, I mean, with Odegaard behind him, with some of the talent in the forward departments that Arsenal have got, putting things on a plate for him as well, partnered with his natural instinct to find the back of the net. I think this is, I can't remember what the fee was exactly, but I think he would have to do well to be a flop. And I think he could very easily set the world on fire with a few goals at the start of the season. People sit up and take notice and really burn his image into people's minds. I think this is probably going to be a really good coup for Arsenal, and I struggle to see it not being at least a decent success.
He had the Bruyne and Silva behind him now. I think they're better than Odegaard to feed them. And he's still only got 8 goals in 28 games.
Now, Tino, Tino's gone for Jesus' signing of the season as well. Saka for Young Player of the Year. Secret Arsenal fan coming out here, Tino?
Maybe. I don't like. I think it was shifted about a lot in that City side, and as much as he had like the guys behind him to feed him, it was shifted about to the wing. He was never played really. He wasn't that number 9 every single week in, week out, which I think he's going to get at Arsenal, which is why I think he's going to be a phenomenal signing. He did all right. He did really well. I think he had an average of at City in his career of a goal every 159 minutes, which is actually, when you consider the amount of games he played and the amount of the players he had in front of him for a vast majority of his time. He had Aguero in front of him, who's one of the best strikers in the Premier League, period. To still come out with a phenomenal goal to minutes ratio is really good. I think Arsenal was the perfect team for him to go to. They were dying for that number 9, for that striker, that guy who's going to lead the line for them. It's a relatively young side, a side that he can really grow and develop in. So I think he's going to be a big success. He started well in pre-season, and I think it's going to continue. I didn't really want to choose a Liverpool player, so I was trying to be non-biased.
Non-biased to Arsenal, it seems.
Evidently so. But I was trying to stay away from Liverpool players as best I could, because if I had my Liverpool cap on, I'd be going Nunes. I'd be going Carvalho.
Out of the Liverpool transfer news team, Jesus was top.
To be fair, though, if you go on when you're saying like sign this summer, I think it's one of the best pieces of business of the summer. Whether he's done as the best season,
could be the difference, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I think getting Gabriel Jesus, who's still only just 25, for 46 million. That's what, to get him for only that. He's won the Premier League 4 times. You know, he's experienced in the Prem. West Ham bought Haller for more than that, for context. Like in terms of the price he paid for him and his age, and that, it probably is the best piece of business. But then, I don't know. I just don't know how, because of his goal return at City, I just don't think he is that mixing piece who's going to get them 20, 30 goals a season.
Now, let's see. Jay, do you remember who you put for...
I do.
Because you went completely left field with this. Not an attacking player. Who's your signing of the season?
Kamara for Aston Villa. And the reason I've done it is its value. He was free. This is a 30-40 million pound player who's just signed for nothing. Teams all over Europe were after him. I don't know how Villa have sealed that, to be honest. It must be the Gerrard factor. But he's got Europe experience. He's free. So even if he does balls up, no risk involved, he's free. If I was going for someone where money's been spent, the thing is, when you sign someone for 45-50 million, to be signing of the season, if you do well, you should do well. You cost 45-50 million. So that's why I haven't gone for someone like that. And if I was going to, as I said, Sterling over Jesus, because Sterling's got a proven track record of getting 20 plus goals a season and cost the same price as Jesus. So out of them two, for me, Sterling's the better signer. But Kamara, purely on value, he's signed for free. He's a 30-40 million pound player. Villa can't lose. If he's rubbish, they sell him and make money on him. If he's great, he stays and they sell him for more money. So it's a win-win for Villa.
If I weren't bit and twisted for context, we said in the street, I would have went for him.
I thought you would have, to be honest. When he went to you first, I thought, don't say Kamara, Matty. Don't say Kamara.
Now, if you are new here, please make sure that you like and subscribe. We do videos like this every day. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking more at the team's perspective as we build up to the Premier League season on the first watch-along of the year with Louie Fell. Now, how do you want to close off? Do you want to close off on flop of the season, or do you want to close off on player of the season?
Are we doing surprise package?
Surprise package is team, so we'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
So let's go player of the year. Not signing of the season, but player of the year. Now, player of the year, according to LFC Transfer Room team, goes third place, Trent Alexander-Arnold, second place, Kevin De Bruyne, and first place, Mo Salah. Now, did anyone go for Trent. I would have gone. I think I went for Trent actually, and the reason I went for him is I think he's due a massive season. I think he's shown it in pre-season that he's starting to get into that number 10 right-hand side spot, and he's taking shots on goal. That's where he got his first goal from in the FA Charity Shield, and I really think that he is going to have a season like the first half of the season. I think he's going to send a message that no right back can even get close to him, regardless of what people say. He's going to put up numbers, I think, that no one's ever going to have seen before. I've just got a feeling that this is what he's going for this year because he looks so determined. You could see it with the shushing of the haters and stuff like that. So for me, I think he may carry that form on into the World Cup and into the second half of the season and do something quite spectacular for him. So that's why I went for Trent for Player of the Season.
James, do you think Trent looked bulkier against City? Does anyone else think that? Like,
he looks like more like a man now, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's packed on a bit of muscle, hasn't he?
Unit.
Now, did anyone go for someone not in the top 3 for Player of the Season?
Yeah.
Matty, who did you go
I can't
for?
remember.
Darwin Núñez.
Darwin, not for signing of the season.
The Player of the Season.
Player of the Season. Why Player of the Season?
Because everyone's just going on about Haaland. That's doing me head in. Like this fella's like scored 26 goals in 28 games as well last year. Didn't spend half the season complaining his muscles were sore. And I think he's just fantastic. And we're talking about a player who in the Champions League bossed that as well. 2 goals against Barca, goal against Bayern Munich, goal against Ajax, or 2 goals against us. Like, he's proven in the Champions League as well. And like you've just said about Trent, he's got Trent on the end of his crossing to him and Andy Robertson. I honestly think Darwin Núñez will get golden boot, and for that reason we'll get Player of the Year.
I'm going to finish on Tino. So I'm going to go Louie next. You went Kevin De Bruyne.
Did I? Okay. Why did I?
A good shout.
I think
Justify yourself.
De Bruyne's De Bruyne, isn't he?
Exactly. He's a hard player to ignore. Although I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he is. This sounds weird, but he's not a key player for Man City, if that makes sense. He's a pure luxury player. Like, he's what Ozil can be for you if you've got the infrastructure to support him. Although, granted, De Bruyne does work a bit harder. For me,
if he loses Bernardo.
Yeah. Bernardo Silva for me is gigantic for Man City. If he goes to Barca, we unfortunately have to be favourites for the title. I think Bernardo Silva is humongous.
Do you
On the other side of that,
let's go. That will affect De Bruyne's game. Would that change your mind on who you pick as Player of the Year if Bernardo went?
I think
maybe. I think they've got enough attacking talent. And De Bruyne has got enough about him that when he's on the pitch, he can do his own thing regardless. It's the whole game. Bernardo is so key to it. Like, some of the positions he was taking up on a regular basis for Man City last season was so out of what any of us thought he could do. I swear against us, he was almost playing as another CDM. Like, he was cropping up in some crazy positions. He is almost a massively underrated player. I feel like he is gargantuan to them. So yeah, not quite answering the question.
He falls out with them, doesn't he, Man City? Because every year he's meant to be leaving. Like, he didn't get enough game time the year before. Then he wants to go to Barcelona. It's just a hate.
And as much as I think he's a little rat boy, he's clearly got his head in the right place, isn't he? That despite that, once the window closes, he does just get on with it, doesn't he? I mean, I've got to hold my hand up and say he is great for them.
Now, Jay, you went Luis Diaz after a massive 6 months. I think he was probably the best player in the second half of the season in the Premier League for me. I think he's actually starting to play more tactical. When you've seen it in pre-season, as much as we've not won the games, he's pressing, he's relentless. What makes you think he's going to be Player of the Season?
I was umming and ahhing between two. If he stays fit, I'd have said Thiago. If he can get a full season behind him, I think he's unbelievable, Thiago, mate. Like, honestly, I could just watch him on his own constantly. He's just brilliant, but I don't think he will stay fit for a full season. He'll definitely have a knock. I said Diaz because he's only been with us 6 months, and the impact he had without ever playing with our team, ever training with them. Now he is. Now he's been here 6 months. He knows what we're about. He's had a full pre-season under him. He knows the squad. He knows the tactics. He can only go up a level. If he goes up a level, for me, January onwards, he was player of the season. So if he takes that even higher, then for me, he's player of the season. I think it's going to be a massive year for Diaz.
Now, Tino, as you know, I've left you to last because we know you love North London.
You haven't gone for a gunner.
No. I haven't gone
We know
for
you
I
love
ain't gone
North
for
London.
last.
Xhaka, Jesus, and now Heung-min Son.
Yeah.
Good shows.
Even
Good.
I think people sleep on Heung-min Son. As much as he's very highly rated, I still think he's underrated. There's a whole like there's this whole like push towards him being he's a lovely player, he's a lovely guy, but nobody actually talks about what he does on the pitch, because 23 goals last season, tied with Mohamed Salah for the Golden Boot. Phenomenal player. I think he's Spurs' best player by a country mile. By a mile. Harry Kane, you can take him out the side, and that Spurs team will still get there. They'll still grind. They still get results. You take Heung-min Son out of that Spurs side, and they're done for me. They're done. I absolutely adore him. I think he's a superb player. It's a shame it's at Spurs instead of Liverpool. But I wanted to go Mohamed Salah, and then I was sat there like, that's an obvious answer. That's my Liverpool bias on, and everybody, it seems to be a good thing to hate Liverpool. So what do I think is the next logical person in the lineup? And there's no one else for me.
What makes you think that Son will get it this year? Because he's been performing at like an exceptional level for a few years now. But as you said, he is somewhat underrated, although now he's getting to that point where I think the majority of people do understand he's a fantastic player. Does he have to go an extra mile?
He needs to leave Spurs.
Yeah. I think if he wants to be in that elite level, that world-class level, Ballon d'Or level, he needs to leave Spurs. But
do you think he would have done if Harry Kane wasn't like at the forefront of transfers every summer? I mean, not this year, but
I think if we
He's
went,
old for it now, isn't he? He's 30 now. I don't think he's leaving.
Isn't he? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's getting on, isn't he?
I think if someone big went in for me, he'd force a move me. If someone like Liverpool or City or Real Madrid to this world went in for Son, I think he'd be off.
He signed a new deal last year, though, didn't he?
Make him their striker.
He's unbelievable. He's the only player in the Premier League who I wish could pull out. He is unbelievable.
Yeah, he is brilliant. He is brilliant. Completely agree with you, Tino. He is a brilliant player.
He's right, because if you look at the year Liverpool played Spurs in the Champions League final, I strongly believe them starting Harry Kane in that final.
Yeah,
because they were fantastic without him in the semi-final, and they put him in, and he was crap.
He bullied his way into the team.
Yeah.
But I do think the way Conte plays is more set up for Son than it is Kane. So I think Son will probably shine more than Kane will this season. I know some people have gone for him as a Harry Kane for Golden Boot, but I tend to agree with Tino. I think a high press and a tactical play and a 100 miles an hour counter attack is set up for Heung-min Son. It's just, as a good player he is, he'll put it on a plate for Harry Kane, won't he? As opposed to always take the selfish option. We're going to close off on flop of the season. The player we think is going to stink up the Premier League. The Iago Aspas cross. The Milan Jovanovic never play for Liverpool again. The Jimmy Traore Cruyff turn in his own net. Now, there is one player clear of everyone that we have gone for flop of the season. And yes, we do have a couple of cheeky Haaland votes, but the winner by a country mile is Richarlison. Now, anyone go for Richarlison?
Nope.
No.
I think I did.
Themselves. Matty, what did you go for? Who
Haaland.
did you go for?
Haaland. Now I'm manifesting. Like I said before, I am bitter and twisted. Liverpool are the best at everything, and yeah. But Erling Haaland missed 95 days, a total of 16 games in the Bundesliga last year through injury. He's all muscle problems, every one of them muscle problems. Real Madrid, if you cast your minds back, he was going to Real Madrid. Didn't sign for Real Madrid because he withheld medical records from them, and he wanted to see them from I think it was from the Norwegian national team medical records. It was something. Why is he withholding them? Because he's got muscle problem injuries all the time. If you look at Haaland's injury, it's literally muscle or knee problems for his whole career, and he's missing like over 50, 60 days of football a season every year since he turned into a professional. I genuinely do believe Haaland will be a flop, but not in a sense of course, he's probably going to come and score 20 goals for City this season, because when he plays, he will score goals. But that Liverpool performance, that's him going up against a quality opposition. He played in the Austrian league. People are saying Darwin Núñez won't make it in the Prem because he's played in the Portuguese league. You could argue the Portuguese league is strong, got more competition in it than the German league, because there's only really 2 teams in the German league, and the Portuguese teams went further in European competitions. So with Haaland, I think he's going to be a flop based on the fact that everyone's expecting him to come in, piss the golden boot, get player of the year, do this and do that, and he's not. So that, in my opinion, he's a flop from what people are expecting him to come in and do. And he's probably going to spend half a season injured. I honestly believe from the game I seen at the Community Shield final, Alvarez will be a better addition to City than Haaland. And Haaland doesn't play the City way either. Alvarez is more suited. He's like a mini Aguero. So yeah,
we've seen this debate in our WhatsApp chat, haven't we? The Alvarez Haaland debate. Yeah. But the other thing that the main thing we've learned tonight is how Tino loves North London. I mean, he really loves North London.
I genuinely can't remember.
Even so much so that when it comes to flop of the season, he's not having a South London player play well. He's gone for Raheem Sterling as flop of the season, which isn't a big statement. But you know you love North London. Why? In all seriousness, why do you think Sterling's going to have a bad year?
If I'm being brutally honest, I was flipping between Haaland and Raheem Sterling, because in the same, it's for part of the same reason. I think those clubs are relying so heavily, City on Haaland and Raheem Sterling on, for Chelsea to think about that, for Chelsea to actually get those goals, because I don't see anybody else in that squad consistently performing and consistently getting that 15, 20 plus goals. I really don't. There's nobody else in that squad, and it's so much pressure to put on a guy like Raheem Sterling. And don't get me wrong, his stats were decent last season, were very good, but he's not the guy who's going to take Chelsea to the title. He's not the guy who's gonna drive them, especially having lost Lukaku, albeit he did absolutely nothing last season. Haven't replaced him yet. Having lost or potentially losing Timo Werner, who hasn't really done much since he signed. It's so much pressure to put on one guy to be that main focal point, and expect him to do what Mohamed Salah does every single year. So I think with Chelsea's lack of signings in the forward, in their front three, essentially, I think they're really going to struggle, and I think Raheem Sterling is going to regret the move.
Okay, so we've got Haaland, we've got Sterling. Jay, you went for a repeat offender, didn't you, for flop of the season? You've got Grealish again.
Yeah, the only reason was when we said flop, I said, is it signing or just in general? And you said in general. If it's in general, it's Jack Grealish all day, mate. He cost 100 million. I think Firmino and Minamino both got better numbers than Grealish. Firmino was injured for 3/4 of the season. Minamino played in cup games. You cost 100 million, mate. You can't do that. If I was going to say new signing, I'd say Scamacca for West Ham. He's nowhere near worth the money that they've said. Believe me, he's not.
That's a good shout.
I think if you're a poacher you need to play for a team that creates bags and bags and bags of chances. West Ham don't do that. Scamacca will be a flop for the money, in my opinion.
How much did they pay for him?
40, I think, 35, 40. It weren't cheap.
Got a history of this with strikers, haven't they? But Sebastian Haller ended up being a cracking player.
Scamacca might somewhere else, but he didn't do it at West Ham, Haller. And I don't think Scamacca will.
It's interesting your point, isn't it? Because Haller with chances for Ajax lit the place up, didn't he?
He nearly broke the Champions League record, didn't he, for goals in a season? So,
And he got
from West Ham not being able to score a single goal to hit them height, it does go to show. But that's why I think Scamacca will struggle. I think if he was at a club like City or us or even Chelsea, where you create a number of chances a game, yeah, he'd be a decent signing. But at West Ham, no. Yeah, I think he's going to be a big flop, Scamacca.
Within the chat, there was a couple going for Lissandro Martinez. I went for Milicia. I just think he's the Dutch version of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Their stats are pretty identical. But United fans will tell you he's the next Trent Alexander-Arnold. Louie, I don't think you remember who you went for because you did go for Richarlison. But you've heard some pitches. You've got some information. Now, in the cold light of day, closing the show, flop of the season will be...
Yeah, I don't know why I put Richarlison, really. I mean that as in, I think I want to change my answer because...
Change your answer.
I don't think he's going to do well. And he was expensive, wasn't he? But I feel like it'll just be it'll be a pretty quiet season for him. And I don't think many people will pay him any attention because I think Spurs overall will do pretty well. So that will cover up for it. I think Ronaldo, if he stays, I think he could be a massive flop this year. Yeah. I think even if he continues to bag goals, which he may well do, I think he is such a detriment at his age and his physical capabilities and his style of football. I think he's such a detriment to any team that's looking to build for the future, which is what they're doing under Ten Hag. They're trying to revamp themselves, change into something new, move away from familiarity with people that Ferguson chose, with people who emulate Ferguson, with people who played under Ferguson. They've gone for something different. They're looking for a new up-and-coming hungry manager. And he's got to deal with a striker who doesn't want to be there, is nearly 40, and despite being able to churn out pretty decent returns, I feel like is a massive detriment in terms of their dressing room, whether he's in the right or he's in the wrong. You know, he's up against Maguire in the changing room, so I think we all know who's in the right. But you still don't want to have that in your locker room. So for me, I think he could be a massive reason of why Man United don't get to where they want to be in their first season under Ten Hag.
One of the really good ones in chat, which I'll tell you, was Calvin Phillips, because he's going to struggle to get past Rodri and therefore could end up being a Danny Drinkwater.
I don't
know. You know, I think them signing Calvin Phillips is the sign of double pivot for City.
Sorry?
A sign of a double pivot. Having two midfielders. I don't think Calvin Phillips is too good to go and sit on the bench. I just refuse to believe he's going to go and sit on the bench there. He's far too good.
But Liverpool
so was Danny Drinkwater
Man
in the
City have changed.
In the Premier League.
No, I know, but this is Calvin Phillips, and you're talking about Calvin Phillips and Danny Drinkwater. You're talking about a phenomenal
Premier League winner to
no, I know, but
battler.
He would have spoke to Jack Grealish, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. No, but I mean, he's not stupid. With Calvin Phillips, he probably likely could have went to probably most of the Premier League clubs if he really wanted to, and he chose City. Now he hasn't. I don't think he just went to City to sit on the bench and gather trophies, because when I've heard interviews and stuff with him, when he talks about wanting to play and win for his nan and stuff like that, he just seems like too much of a player who's not happy to sit there and get a paycheck, where Danny Drinkwater was. Jack Grealish is just another Gareth Bale. Do you know what I mean? He's just going to sit there and be happy to play a few minutes and get his trophies. He's not arsed, and then go back to Villa when he wants, and he'll be a hero at Villa when he goes back, similar to what Rooney was at United when he went back to Everton, fucked him off and went back a hero. But I don't know. Calvin Phillips is too good to be on the bench. I just can't see City buying him, because he's, like you said, he's not better than Rodri. So on that basis, he's not going to get a game, because Rodri's never injured either.
Well, this has been our predictions for what's going to happen in the Premier League season. We've gone through flop of the season. We've gone through signing of the season, young player of the season, player of the season. What we haven't covered is top goal scorer of the season. But what we're going to do is we're going to put that on YouTube Shorts. We're going to got a few short videos covering what Liverpool player is going to break in, who's going to be the highest scorer of the season. And tomorrow we will be talking about the teams and what teams we think are going to get relegated and who's going to be the surprise package. This has been LFC Transfer Room. This has been season preview. And this has been... I need to get rid of the comment. We'll catch you on the next one.